Hello, and welcome back to the definitive Starship Review series without access to a proper table, where today, in a channel first, we are covering a shuttlecraft set, Shuttle Set 2, which includes Shuttle Pod 1 from the episode Shuttle Pod 1, Executive Shuttle from I think the motion picture, maybe one of the other ones, that era. I'm totally not looking off screen for these. Shuttle Type-15 from the Next Generation, particularly early Next Generation, and Shuttlecraft 7, or rather the initial concept for Shuttlecraft 7 for some reason, Type 7, if I recall correctly. And in addition to these ships, I'm also going to be covering their L-cars, we'll call them, because these have a name, but I don't remember what they are, and we're just gonna go in a chronological order. How about that? Starting with Shuttle Pod 1. Actually editing Nathan here, because somehow I record 10 of these in a row, yet I forget to mention for this one that I am part of the Eaglemoss affiliate program, which means that if you choose to purchase this set, I suppose, because of this video, there's a link in the description. That is an affiliate link, meaning I will get a 7% commission on the sale of the model. I'm allowed to say whatever the heck I want about these models, and I still purchase them with my own money, but just be aware that there's a monetary incentive for me to tell you to go purchase these ships. Particularly with this set, as it is a bit more expensive than the average model. Now, if you're new to the shuttle lineage for Eaglemoss, this is actually the largest of the four. You buy these all at once and you get all four, and they are smaller than the standard size. You can tell right here I have a standard TOS Enterprise, actually the cage one, but they're all the same size, and you can see it is smaller. If I actually compare it to an Eaglemoss stand, they're approximately the same size, at least this one is. You will notice they get smaller stands for the shuttles, and in fact, every shuttlecraft, I don't know if Eaglemoss still does that, so some of the newer shuttle packs might not do this, but every shuttle pack has had this stand, which is awful. It's actually great for Shuttle Pod 1. Which has a flat bottom. It can just sit there, and yes, it can land. But I'll go over how it does for each of these four. But yeah, often they don't have flat backs, so that's been really annoying. I think they might have remedied this with, starting with Shuttle Pack 7-ish, but I don't know. We're here to talk about Shuttle Pod 2. Nope, Shuttle Pack 2, and Shuttle Pod 1 from Enterprise. Oh, and before I forget, we also have, we have the standard size Enterprise D, circa the end of Generations, and you can see that yes, it's about the same size as the saucer. They are smaller models than the standard size. But let's take a look at Shuttle Pod 1 from Enterprise, and of course the one that actually had the episode about it, as I said in the intro. Really nicely done. You can see its panel work isn't engraved, it's actually kind of painted on, but it does have its wings out, wings extended, which they can't retract. In the show, they can, but not as the studio model. They're apparently really sharp as well, so don't squeeze them. Not that I'm bleeding, but you know. The engine block, black in the back, not graded. It almost looks like it does. That might actually be the actual lines in my viewfinder. Might have wished they were blue, but I also haven't seen the back of this model for years, since I bought it probably. The underside is surprisingly nicely detailed for a shuttle. You've got the landing legs that would normally extend, or maybe these are also landing legs, I think, even a little bit indented, but nice and flat for it to sit on that stand perfectly. The door, very nicely done, kind of a complex thing, properly engraved, and also has what I assume to be the button that juts out there. The window with its little corners cut off. Registry's alright, it's correct, it's done well. NX-01, Enterprise, Pod 1. The cockpit is quite nice as well. It's got kind of rivety bumps on the front, the nose cone with a divide there as it should be, and a detailed little top right here. Weight-wise, it feels pretty good actually, especially for a small shuttle. I'm struggling to discern what exactly is metal. That sounds metal. The back bit is plastic. I believe there's a divide, it's this divide here, where the nose is plastic, the bottom is plastic, but the top is metal. And with this diagram, This is not a good backdrop for it. In fact, I think I'm gonna try and reshoot these somewhere else. They're very nicely done. You need that backlighting for them, but this is exactly how they did them in the show. Not Enterprise, ironically enough. Enterprise had proper screens, but they used to be just these black, plasticky things that were kind of colored, and they shone a backlight through them, and that's how the LCAR system worked. Up until Enterprise, if I recall correctly. On most things, some things did have proper screens, but because of that, these look very nice. Designed by the guy who actually did for the classic shows. I'll put his name on screen because I cannot remember them. These diagrams are named after him. Yeah, they're proper. Everything's labeled correctly, and they're just really cool things to have. No proper way to display them other than these little feet things. I've been thinking of 3D printing something for ages. Once I have a proper display, I actually have my own house, my own place, and I know what space I'm dealing with. But they were very nicely done. Next up, we've got the executive shuttle from the TMP movie, which, as you can tell from this base, is not really flat. You can get it to sit flat if you balance it kind of right there on this bit, but annoyingly, you see the kind of bit between these white sections is relatively flat. The stand it's supposed to sit on is thicker than those white bits, so you can't actually slide it in there. These ships are all, even the flat ones, you can spin it. There's no real thing actually holding them as my entire set collapses around me. So yeah, in general for these shuttle pods, these sets are real bad, and we haven't even gotten to these guys yet. Bam! Random jut cut, because I forgot to do this earlier in the video, but the executive shuttle, here we go, compared to the original Enterprise, is about the same length as the main body, minus nacelles. It's a bit shorter. And as for the Enterprise D, well, that's upside down, about saucer length. It's really similar to Shuttle Pod 1 in its size. But the executive shuttle is we're here to review. Quite nicely done. I don't really remember it so much from the movies. I'm pretty sure it might be in other scenes, but the one I remember is kind of the first one you see in Academy in the motion picture before... I think it's before they beam not Spock to the ship. I believe they're those ships. And it is captured nicely. You notice them after you own a model of them watching the movie. And it's got kind of these weird shapes in it. In fact, I'll cut this if it's inaccurate. So if you're hearing this, it is. I'm pretty sure this is what the Julian, the ship that Scotty uses, is captain of in Relics. I think that's what... that was based off of this, kind of built off that model. But anyway, you got all these interesting curves. The bottom section is, oddly enough, the most detailed, with proper engine bits, greeblies there, indents. You've got your markings. Registry, NAR. That might be a Navy thing. I've never noticed that before. NAR 25820. Really tiny, but it does say United Federation of Planets. It is all legible if you're not staring through a viewfinder. Yeah, NAR, that's much better. You can see United Federation of Planets, the old logo from that era. And then same on the back as a bumper sticker / tramp stamp with lovely little windows and stuff. And yeah, it is just a shuttle, executive shuttle. It's a fancy shuttle for diplomats, captains, high-ranking Starfleet personnel, admirals, with just the doors that are probably not particularly safe, but hey, I guess runabouts did it too. Nicely painted detail on the top mostly. You do have some greeblies. In fact, no, it is pretty bumpy, as you can see. But a lot of the paint, and yeah, just colors of the era. Very 70s Star Trek. But a really nicely done model. And the Okudagram, I think they're called, you can see very clearly it's a shuttle. It's got loads of passengers. It's a nice luxury sort of shuttlecraft thing for those quick hops into orbit. I've just noticed, though, it is in the TNG style, which is a bit unusual. I don't know if he's made an appearance in TNG. The LCARs tend to match their show. I've checked for the Alien shuttle set they're doing. They are all TNG LCARs, but I don't know why this isn't a TMP one. I've never actually realized that before. It's not like it's any harder to do. I guess... No, because the backgrounds, if you look at them, the backgrounds are all slightly different. I think this one might even be more Nemesis-y style over there. It shouldn't really be that much harder to do. Next up, we've got the Type-15 shuttle, as it says on my box off screen, which Yeah, this is not a fun one to fit on its stand. You can do it. I've had it on there for most of the episode. Well, I get you can do it like this. Actually, I stand corrected. You can't do it. It's a bit hard to tell with the camera's angle, but the shuttle leans back because the only place you can like the center of mass is I think it's somewhere under here. So the only place in theory you could set it on is here because if that front bit is off, it falls off the ship. But you can't set it on there because the center of mass is behind here slightly, so it falls backwards. Oh, there we go. I've done it. I don't know how, but it's sitting flat. It's it's very finicky though. You can see one tap and it doesn't do it. I think you actually just need to get that glass bit really in there or bent the right way. Yeah, as you can see, I'm cutting a lot of it, but me struggling to do it. These this is an awful stand for this one, which is a shame because it's such a great little model. Really small, the smallest of this shuttle pack you can see just kind of sits on top of the Enterprise's saucer. Like, it's super small. Basically, it fits inside the phaser strip on the saucer. But of course, it's the next generation shuttle. You know, it's the little one everyone loves. And it's really nicely done. It can weirdly enough, it actually can land on its nacelles like it does in the show, so it won't fall down. And I guess that's why it sits on the stand sideways, is because, yeah, it can land flush, which I think I've forgotten. The executive shuttle, it can also do that, actually. Landing on these white bits on the center of mass is just right. So yeah, both of these shuttles can land. These ones actually get names, so you get the Aldrin. I couldn't tell you specifically what episodes those are in. I don't do that kind of research. All the registry is right. Number 2, Enterprise D, USS Enterprise. I like how I read NCC 1701 as Enterprise and then added the D. Yeah, similar on the front with the pinstriping, and you can see just how dirty my fingernails are. Loads of bumps, paneling, window work, the Starfleet Delta. We've already looked at the bottom. Pretty plain, bumpy. I mean, I imagine the actual, plywood model they would have had in the show was similar. But you do have these graded nacelle bits on the engine, and no real detailing in there. Actually, I lie. It is graded on the inside of there. It's just not showing up on my viewfinder. There we go, that's better. For some reason, the nacelles do look angled. They're not quite flush. And yeah, it looks like they aren't when I actually balance it and look at the back. But you don't really notice it. I guess if you look at it kind of with your eye level here, you can notice it. But everything else, it's close enough you wouldn't really notice. Is it leaning forward as well, those nacelles? Yes, the nacelles do appear to be pitching downward as well. I don't know if that's just my model or if that's a universal problem, but that is a bit unfortunate. This black bar that goes all the way around the ship is actually indented, as you can see pretty clearly there. You know, you can fit a fingernail in through there. Really tiny ships, but yeah, adds just a bit of detail, dimensionality to the model. But yeah, it's very clearly the Aldrin shuttle. Incredibly small. And of course the Okanagan. God, I don't know. You can see it's cramped and small and probably not too pleasant. It's one of those space suits you wear. But hey, it's the Enterprise D shuttle. Finally, the interesting one, the Type-7 shuttlecraft. Hawking? Yes, the Hawking. Except not really, because as the booklet will tell you, for some reason they went with like the artist concept of the Shuttlecraft 7. This is the memory alpha page for Shuttlecraft 7. And as you can see, well, for one, this one's got a big number. I'll put these pictures actually up on the video as well. The shuttle doesn't in the show. It just appears to have a name. And also, you'll see it a bit more clearly, here in the second one. The windows don't go all the way back in the show. Instead, there's like registry stuff. And it's also just a bit squatter. But in the model, it's not. It's completely different. And the aft view is actually pretty similar. The door's slightly different. But there's more etching detail. And it's not Shuttlecraft 7. But if we scroll down here a bit to the actual LCARS display for the Type 7 shuttle, it's exactly what I've got in my hand here. Like, it's it's the artist's interpretation, like original planning work that they did. That this was too hard to do in the show, too expensive, whatever. So they did what you saw in Memory Alpha. But this is technically a canon shuttle, as it does have an LCARS display that they presumably showed somewhere in early TNG, given how green it was. But it's not the Type 7 shuttlecraft, which is a very weird choice for them to make. It does land, you can see on its nacelles like it does in the show, and it's balanced correctly so that it doesn't like tilt weirdly. The base is completely flat, so it does sit very easily and nicely on the shuttle base. Like, it's good for some things, but like for the Aldrin, they really should have done the other one, another stand, and I don't know why they didn't. The Type 7 shuttlecraft is interesting because it's actually got these grips. You can see they're kind of indented, like, traction for when it lands, which is really nice and makes it feel less dangerous to just land on your engines. You've got basic registry information around here. Of course, NCC 1701D, United Federation of Planets, Hawking. Shuttlecraft 3. Nope, this is Shuttlecraft 2. USS Enterprise number 3 with your red and green lights. But yeah, pretty simplistic ship. It's just a lot smooth everywhere. Is that why they went with this? Because it's easier to make, it's super smooth. At least it does have proper, glass nacelles. You can kind of see the struts holding them up in there. A lot better on the viewfinder than in person, just by what I'm seeing. And you've got that coppery Enterprise D engine look. The nacelles are very nicely done, as are these little arms holding them together. You can see they've got an odd indented bit and are generally interesting organic shapes. Like, it's a great representation of the original drawing for a Type 7 shuttlecraft. It's just not a Type 7 shuttlecraft. And when you get it, even before learning that it's not the one you see in the show, you can kind of tell that it is a bit off, not quite what you'd expect. And I forgot to do this earlier, but it's also quite a larger shuttle, so you can see maybe like half the size of the TOS Enterprise, the Cage one, but they're all the same size. It could be the Defiant for all I care. And slightly smaller than the Enterprise D's saucer section. The nacelles slightly smaller as well. And finally, the little diagram for the Type 7, which is always just a lovely little LCARS. Exactly what you'd expect in the TNG style. And so yeah, for this little shuttle set that managed to worm its way onto my channel banner, the shuttle sets are interesting, because, they're nicely done shuttles, it's like Eaglemoss. Their models are generally really good. It's rare for them to get, like, a bad one that doesn't really match the show. And even this one, the Type 7, is, it's a model of the prototype. Like, it's really well done for that. But it's interesting because it costs $100 for 4. So some quick math, right? You're paying about $25 for one of these ships. I don't think these prices have increased like everything else recently. But either way, at best, it's about $100 for these 4 ships. You also get the diagrams. But one of these costs about $22. And in fact, I think you can usually get these on sale. I don't think coupon codes usually apply to the shuttlecraft sets, because who pays $22 for these? Like, no, I've paid like $10, $10 to $16 for them on sales. These are bigger, for the same amount of money, right? Like $25, $22, and sure, maybe you say that these diagrams add $3 that only work in the proper lighting, and you might want to make better stands for. It's really kind of on the cusp for me. It's why this is the only shuttlecraft set I own where I think it's a little overpriced, if I'm being honest. If these were if they were all around this size, I'd be happier. Like, I don't think they really have to be bigger, but I don't know. Maybe remove the diagrams, add a 5th for $100, or just bring the price down a bit. Like, I love the diagrams, but for me, the shuttle sets are something I'm gonna buy when either I can get a good coupon for them, but like 15% off on these is 50% off on everything else. And I think the only reason I bought this was because it was one left in stock when I checked. And I feel like that's gonna be when I'm buying the shuttlecraft sets, is when I see there's one left in stock and I go, I guess I have to spend the 100 now. Because they're really good. They're just, when you do the math, it doesn't quite work out. For me. Like, I'd still recommend it if you have the money, if you really want these shuttles, or any set, then yeah, I mean, go for it. But do consider that maybe if you can find them cheaper on sale somewhere, or maybe cheaper on eBay, and you do get magazines, by the way, as well. Smaller magazines. But like the other ships, I just don't show them here. Just consider how much you're actually paying for these models compared to the other ones. But I think that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider liking and sharing it. If you have any more questions, just ask me in the description below. I habitually say description anymore, like nowadays. Ask me in the comments below, and I'll answer you. If you want me to review a specific model, just ask in the comments. I'm more likely to have it than not, and if you ask, I'll do it as soon as I can. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.